The words came out of Sarah's mouth like poison as she stood in my kitchen, adjusting her engagement ring. The best gift you could give us would be if you just vanished from our lives forever. She didn't even look up from her phone while saying it. My son Jake just nodded, scrolling through his tablet. Before we continue, first let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Valerie from Belgium. Thank you for being part of our family. But let me tell you how I got to this shocking moment. 2 years ago, I had moved heaven and earth to help them. I had sold my beloved lakeside cottage, the place where my dear husband Tom and I spent our happiest summers, to give Jake and Sarah $65,000 for their first home. Every penny from my retirement fund went to making their dreams come true. They promised I'd always be welcome, that I'd be part of their growing family. But here we were, the night before their wedding that I was paying for, and Sarah decided I was worthless. You heard what she said, Jake finally spoke, not looking up from his screen. Tomorrow is our big day. Your drama is making everything worse. My drama. I had spent all day helping them pack wedding favors, picking up flowers from 3 different shops, and listening to Sarah complain about the band, the cake, and the photographer. All I had done wrong was suggest they didn't need a chocolate fountain and an ice cream bar. Where am I supposed to sleep tonight? Asked, keeping my voice steady. Sarah shrugged while painting her nails bright pink. I don't know. Maybe your friend Carol's house. Or get a motel room. Honestly, Helen, I don't care where you go as long as you're not here tomorrow morning. This is my son's home too, I said quietly. Actually, Jake put down his tablet and looked at me for the first time. Sarah handles all our money stuff now. She's the one who makes the house payments. You just helped us get started once. Just once. $65,000 turned into. Just helped us get started once. I stood there in the living room where I had painted walls, hung pictures, and cooked Sunday dinners for 2 years. Looking at the beautiful furniture my money had helped buy. The big TV I had gotten them for Christmas. These 2 people had taken everything I gave them and now acted like they earned it all by themselves. Something deep inside me changed. Not broke, but shifted like a switch flipping to a different setting. You're absolutely right, I said calmly. I should leave. Sarah looked surprised. She probably expected me to cry, to beg, to make a scene she could tell her friends about later. I'll get my things and be gone in 30 minutes. Jake actually smiled. That's smart, Mom. We can talk after our honeymoon when things calm down. Talk after the honeymoon. Like this was just some small fight about what movie to watch. I went upstairs to the spare room where I'd been staying for 8 months. Not my room. I was never allowed to call it that. Always the spare room because spare things get thrown away eventually. As I put my clothes in my old suitcase, I could hear them downstairs already planning what to do with the space. Sarah wanted to make it her craft room. Jake thought it would be perfect for his gaming setup. Neither of them seemed to feel bad about throwing out the woman who made their perfect life possible. I stopped at Tom's picture on the dresser. 41 years of marriage. And he never once made me feel unwanted in my own home. Don't worry, honey, I whispered to his smiling face. This isn't over yet. But first I needed to make some important phone calls. Sitting in my car outside their house. No, wait. Outside the house my money helped pay for, I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer's emergency line. Janet Walsh had been helping me since Tom died, and she had warned me this might happen someday. Helen, it's almost midnight. Is everything okay? Janet, I need you to look at the paperwork from when I helped Jake and Sarah buy their house. All the documents. Long pause. Did something happen with the kids? I told her everything. Sarah's cruel words, Jake's cold agreement, how they treated my $65,000 like pocket change. Janet listened carefully, and I could hear her typing on her computer. Helen, I've been worried about this situation for months. The way they've been treating your help like a gift instead of what it really was. What do you mean, what it really was? Another pause, longer this time. Don't you remember those extra papers I made you sign? The ones I insisted on when you told me about Sarah's shopping problems. My heart started beating fast. Janet, please tell me you protected me somehow. Oh sweetie, that $65,000 wasn't just a gift. Legally, it was a loan with your name on the house papers as part owner. Sarah never signed the final agreement forms I sent. According to the law, you own 30% of that house. I almost dropped my phone. Are you serious? Dead serious. Sarah kept saying she'd sign the papers later, and you were so worried about keeping peace that you never pushed it. But the bank has you listed as a co-owner. The house deed shows your share. It's all completely legal. Through the kitchen window, I could see Sarah trying on different jewelry with her wedding dress, probably posting pictures online. She was laughing and dancing, completely unaware that her world was about to fall apart. Janet, what would happen if I wanted to sell my part of the house? Well, as a part owner, you could force them to sell the whole house. They'd have the first chance to buy your share, of course. They could pay you what it's worth now. And if they can't afford to buy me out, then the house gets sold to someone else, and everyone splits the money based on how much they own. I watched Jake come into the kitchen, opening a beer and celebrating getting rid of his annoying mother, probably. Janet, I need you to write up legal papers saying I want to sell. I want them delivered first thing Monday morning. Helen, are you sure about this? Once we start this process. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. They want me to disappear. Fine. But I'm taking my 30% with me. After hanging up, I sat in the darkness, watching my son and his bride-to-be celebrate their freedom in the house I helped make possible. They had no idea that in just a few days, their perfect world was going to crash down. But first I had one more important call to make. Riverside Gardens Wedding Center. This is Kelly speaking. Hi Kelly, this is Helen Parker. I need to talk to someone about tomorrow's wedding reception. Oh Mrs. Parker, how exciting. The big day is tomorrow. How can I help? I'm afraid there's been a change. I need to cancel the reception. Cancel. But ma'am, the wedding is tomorrow. The flowers are arranged, the food is ready, the staff is scheduled. I understand, and I'll pay whatever fees I need to. The thing is, I'm the one who signed the contract and paid the deposit. I believe I can make changes. Papers rustling. Let me check our records. Yes, the contract has your name and your credit card. But surely you want to talk to the bride and groom first. No need. I'm making a business decision. Please cancel everything. Mrs. Parker, this seems like something the happy couple should know about. I watched Sarah through the window, now showing her dress to someone on video chat, probably her sister. The happy couple made it very clear that they don't want me involved in their lives anymore. So I'm just doing what they asked. 20 minutes later, I was checked into the Comfort in downtown, ordering pizza and feeling something I hadn't felt in years. The power of taking control of my own life. My phone started ringing at 12:23 a.m. What did you do? Sarah's voice was so loud and angry I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I did exactly what you asked, I said calmly, turning down the TV in my hotel room. You wanted me to disappear, so I disappeared. The wedding center called. They said you canceled our reception. Our wedding reception, Helen. There are 150 people expecting dinner tomorrow. I'm sure there are. That sounds like your problem now. Jake grabbed the phone away from her. Mom, this is crazy. You can't just cancel our wedding because you're mad about where you sleep. I didn't cancel your wedding, sweetie. You can still get married tomorrow. I just canceled the party I was paying for. You know, the one that cost me $18,000. Dead silence. I had never told them how much the reception cost, always saying, don't worry about money whenever they asked. $18,000. Sarah's voice was tiny now. The reception, the photographer, the flowers, the DJ. Did you think it was all free? Did you think money just appeared because you wanted a fairy tale wedding? But we can't tell 150 people there's no dinner, Jake said, panic in his voice. You're smart people. I'm sure you'll think of something. Pizza places deliver, I hear. Sarah was crying now, loud, ugly sobs that might have made me feel guilty a year ago. Now they just sounded like the tantrums she threw whenever she didn't get her way. How could you do this to us? We trusted you. You trusted me. You told me to vanish from your family forever. I'm just following your instructions. I didn't mean permanently, Sarah wailed. I just meant for tonight. Oh, I see. So when you said, forever, you actually meant, for a few hours. My mistake. Jake tried being nice. Mom, please. We can work this out like grown-ups. Come back home and let's fix this. The home where I'm not welcome. The home where my presence ruins everything. I don't think so. Where are you even staying? Sarah demanded through her tears. That's not your business anymore, is it? You made it clear that my living situation is my problem to solve. I could hear frantic whispering in the background, probably them trying to figure out how to fix the mess they created. Can you at least call the wedding center back? Jake begged. Maybe if you explain it was all a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a clear business decision made by the person paying for everything. But what about our guests? What about Sarah's parents flying in from Texas? What about them? You're still getting married tomorrow. They can still watch that happen. They just won't get a free meal afterward. Sarah took the phone back. You're being mean and spiteful. No, honey. Mean and spiteful was telling the woman paying for your dream wedding to disappear forever. I'm just being smart with my money. This will destroy everything. Everyone will think we're poor. Well, now that you mention it, I let that hang in the air for a moment, watching them panic. Now that you mention it, without my money, you probably will be poor pretty soon. What do you mean? Jake's voice was shaky with fear now. I mean, have you looked at your monthly bills lately? Do you know how much money goes out versus how much comes in? More frantic whispering. Because I've been helping with your expenses in ways you probably haven't noticed. The grocery money I give Sarah when we shop together. The electric bill I pay online when you're short. The car repairs, the doctor visits, the little emergencies that keep happening. Those were gifts, Sarah said weakly. Were they? Because from where I sit, they look like an allowance. And allowances can be stopped any time. The silence went on so long I thought they hung up. Finally Jake spoke up. What do you want, Mom? Now that was interesting. An hour ago they couldn't wait to get rid of me. Now they wanted to make a deal. I want exactly what you offered me, to disappear from your family forever. And I want to take my money with me when I go. By Sunday morning my phone had 42 missed calls and 38 text messages. I ignored them all while eating pancakes from room service and reading the newspaper like a normal person. The wedding was supposed to start at 3 p.m. At 10 a.m., someone knocked on my hotel door. Through the peephole, I saw Jake in his wrinkled wedding shirt, looking like he hadn't slept at all. Mom, please. We need to talk. I opened the door but didn't let him in. Shouldn't you be getting ready for your special day? That's what I need to talk about. Sarah's having a meltdown. She's locked in the bathroom crying. Her mom is threatening to go back to Texas. Everything is falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you figure it out. Figure it out. Mom, you ruined our wedding. No, son. I took away my money from your wedding. There's a difference. He pushed into my room and I let him. Sometimes you need to let people show you who they really are. This is insane. Over what? A fight about sleeping arrangements. Sit down, Jake. Something in my voice made him listen. I stayed standing, looking down at my 35-year-old son who was finally learning that actions have results. This isn't about sleeping arrangements. This is about respect. This is about being grateful. This is about treating the person who made your life possible like she matters. We always treated you good. Did you? When's the last time you asked about my day, my health, my feelings? When's the last time you invited me somewhere because you wanted me there, not because you needed my help? He opened his mouth then closed it. I'll wait. The quiet was uncomfortable. When's the last time you called just to chat? When's the last time you remembered my birthday without your phone reminding you? When's the last time you treated me like your mom instead of your personal bank? That's not fair. Isn't it, Jake? In the last year, how much money have I given you and Sarah? I don't know. A few thousand for emergencies. $43,000. His face turned white. $43,000 in emergencies and little helps. Plus the $65,000 for the house. That's $108,000, Jake. More than most people make in 3 years. We were always going to pay you back. Were you? Because Sarah just bought a new purse that cost $800. You just got that expensive watch. Neither of you mentioned paying me back even once. He put his head in his hands. What do you want from me, Mom? So you're punishing us by destroying our wedding. The cold way he said that, like my protecting myself was punishment, told me everything I needed to know. No, Jake. I'm protecting myself by stopping you from using me. Using you. That's ridiculous. Is it? You've taught me that my only value is money. You've made me feel guilty for having needs while you take everything I give for granted. You've made me feel like I don't matter unless I'm writing checks. I sat across from him, making him look at me. Yesterday, Sarah told me the best gift I could give was to disappear forever. And you agreed. After everything I've done, everything I've given up, you agreed that I should vanish. She didn't mean it. Yes, she did. And so did you. And you know what? You're going to get exactly what you asked for. He looked up scared. What does that mean? I smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It means you better learn to pay your own bills. It means you better hope Sarah's parents feel generous. And it means you better start looking at apartments because the house situation is about to get very messy. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the legal papers you never read when I helped with that house down payment. The ones that make me a part owner of your house. All the color left his face. That's right, honey. I own 30% of your house, and I'm putting it up for sale. Jake stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. You can't own part of our house. We bought it. We live there. With my $65,000 down payment, yes. Did you think that money just disappeared? But you said it was a gift. You said you wanted to help us. I pulled out my phone and showed him Janet's email from last night. Apparently, my lawyer had different ideas about protecting my investment. Would you like me to read the legal documents? This can't be right. Sarah would have signed something. Sarah was supposed to sign something. She kept forgetting. Janet kept the papers anyway. Jake was shaking now from anger or fear. You planned this. You've been planning this whole thing. Oh, sweetheart, if I'd been planning this, don't you think I would have stopped before spending $18,000 on your wedding? The truth of that seemed to hit him. I'd spent thousands on a wedding for people who told me to disappear. If I'd been scheming, I would have stopped months ago. So what happens now? His voice sounded small and scared. Now you have a choice. You can buy my 30% share at what the house is worth today, or we sell the house and split the money. We can't afford to buy you out. The house is worth $280,000 now. 30% of that is $84,000. I know. I'm good with numbers. That's why I have money and you don't. He winced. We're not broke. We just have expenses. Jake, you and Sarah make $7,200 a month together. Your house payment alone is $2,100. Add car payments, credit cards, utilities, food, and Sarah's shopping, and you spend more than you make every month. How do you know all that? Because I've been covering the difference for 2 years. Did you think the money fairy was paying your bills? The hotel room phone rang. I answered while Jake sat there realizing his new reality. Mrs. Parker, this is Kelly from Riverside Gardens. I have the bride's mother on the other line. She wants to pay for today's reception if you'll let us proceed. I looked at Jake, who was listening with desperate hope. That's very kind of her, Kelly, but that won't work. Mom, please. Jake started. I held up my hand to stop him. You see, Kelly, There are family issues that make it wrong for me to let other people pay for an event I chose to cancel. I understand. Should I tell Mrs. Rodriguez that the cancellation stays? Yes, please. And Kelly, send my final bill to this hotel. I'll pay for any trouble I caused. After hanging up, I turned back to Jake. Sarah's mom was going to pay $18,000 to save your reception. She's been planning this wedding for months. She invited all her friends. How nice for her. Too bad her daughter couldn't be nice to the person originally paying for everything. Jake pulled out his phone. I need to call Sarah. We need to figure out what to do about the house. Go ahead. But Jake, when you tell your wife about our new situation, make sure she understands something. He looked up from his phone. I'm not the same woman who left your house last night. That woman was desperate to keep peace at any cost. This woman is done being used. You're really going to force us to sell our home. I'm going to use my legal rights as a part owner. What you do about that is up to you. He left without saying goodbye, probably to give Sarah the worst news of her life on her wedding day. 15 minutes later, my phone rang again. Helen. Sarah's voice was barely understandable through her crying. We need to talk. No, sweetie. We really don't. You made it very clear yesterday that talking to me wasn't something you wanted to do. I was stressed. I was worried about the wedding. I didn't mean what I said. Of course you were stressed. It must be hard pretending to like someone you obviously can't stand. I don't hate you. Sarah, in the 2 years since you moved into the house I helped buy, you've never once said thank you. Not once. You've never asked about my life, my hobbies, my health. You've never invited me anywhere unless you needed me to babysit or cook or pay for something. That's not true. When's the last time you called just to see how I was? Silence. I'll save you the trouble of thinking. Never. You've never called just to check on me. But you're Jake's mom. You're family. Yesterday you told me the best gift I could give was to disappear forever. Today you're saying I'm family. Which is it, Sarah? More crying, the kind of desperate sobbing that used to make me rush over with hugs and comfort. Helen, please. I'll do anything. I'll say sorry in front of everyone. I'll pay you back. Pay me back with what money? You don't have a job, remember? You're a stay-at-home wife in a house you couldn't afford without my help. I'll get a job. That's a wonderful idea. You should definitely do that. But it doesn't change what's happening with the house. What if we promise to pay back everything? All the money you've given us. I almost laughed. Sarah, honey, you owe me $108,000. At minimum wage, it would take you about 8 years to earn that much. And that's if you never spent money on anything else. The silence that followed was the sound of reality finally hitting. By 5 p.m., they'd called 19 more times. I answered exactly 0 of them. Instead, I was sitting in the hotel restaurant having a nice dinner and watching the local news coverage of a wedding disaster at Riverside Gardens. The reporter didn't say names, but the video of Sarah in her wedding dress crying on the steps was pretty obvious. Excuse me, aren't you Helen Parker? I looked up to see a woman around my age with silver hair and worried eyes. She looked I'm sorry, do I know you? Maria Rodriguez, Sarah's mother. She pointed to the empty chair across from me. May I sit? This should be interesting. Maria sat down gracefully, like someone used to handling family crises. I wanted to thank you. That wasn't what I expected. Thank me. For showing my daughter who she really is. The waitress came and Maria ordered coffee. I waited, curious about where this was going. I've been worried about Sarah for years, Maria continued. The selfishness, the way she treats people like servants, the complete lack of gratitude for anything. I kept hoping marriage would help her grow up. And now I've seen how she treats the woman who made her dream life possible. And I'm ashamed. Maria's coffee arrived. She stirred it slowly before continuing. I offered to pay for the reception, not because I support Sarah's behavior, but because I felt bad for the 150 guests who got hurt by this mess. But you were right to say no. Was I? My daughter needed to face consequences for her actions. Real consequences, the kind that can't be fixed with mommy and daddy's money. I studied Maria carefully. There was something refreshing about her honesty. She called me crying about the house situation, Maria continued, demanding that I give them money to buy your share. And I told her absolutely not. That's a lot of money to refuse. Money Sarah hasn't earned and doesn't deserve. Helen, I want you to know that whatever you decide about the house, I support you. Even if it means they lose their home. Especially then. Maybe having to start over will teach Sarah what work and gratitude actually mean. After Maria left, I sat alone thinking. For 2 years, I'd been enabling Sarah's bad behavior just like her parents had been. Every time I paid their bills, I taught them that someone would always catch them when they fell. The question was, what kind of lesson did I want them to learn now? My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Mom, we got approved for a loan that would cover $50,000 toward buying you out. Can we meet to talk about paying the rest later? I stared at the message for a long time. They were trying, which was more than they'd done in years. But a loan meant going deeper in debt, not learning to be responsible. I typed back. We can talk, but I want to see your complete budget and a realistic plan for paying off all your debts, not just mine. His response came right away. Anything you want, Mom. We just want to fix this. For the first time since this started, that sounded like progress. The budget meeting was eye-opening in the worst way. Jake and Sarah spread their financial papers across Janet's conference table like evidence of a crime, which in a way they were. Okay, I said, looking at their monthly expenses. You spend $350 a month eating out. We both work long days, Sarah said defensively. Sometimes we're too tired to cook. You don't work, Sarah. I moved down the list. $250 a month on Sarah's clothes budget. I need to look nice for social events. What social events? You don't have a job. Sarah's face was turning red, but I kept going. $180 on cable and streaming services you barely use. $120 on Sarah's gym membership that you use maybe once a month. $700 a month in credit card payments for what looks like shopping and vacation debt. Jake was adding numbers on his phone. Mom, I know it looks bad. It looks like you're living a lifestyle that needs about $10,000 a month when you only make $7,200. But with the loan, we could pay off the credit cards and lower our monthly bills. Sarah said hopefully. I looked at Janet, who was taking notes quietly. Sarah, you'd be borrowing against the house to pay credit card debt. What happens when you max out the cards again? We won't. We've learned our lesson. Have you? Because I don't see any real changes in this budget. You're still eating out constantly, still keeping expensive memberships you don't use, still treating shopping like a hobby. Jake leaned forward. What would you want to see, Mom? What would prove we're serious about changing? Finally, the right question. I want a budget based on your actual income. I want you cooking at home, canceling subscriptions you don't need, and Sarah getting a job. A job? Sarah looked horrified. Yes, a job. You're 32 years old with a college degree. There's no reason you can't help pay the bills. But Jake makes good money. Not good enough apparently, since you've been using my money for 2 years. Janet cleared her throat. Helen, what exactly are you offering? I've been thinking about this for days. Here's my deal. You can buy my share for $60,000 instead of the full $84,000. But there are rules. They both perked up. First, Sarah gets a job within 90 days and keeps it for at least 18 months. Second, you sell one car and use the money to pay down debt. Third, you follow a realistic budget with no eating out, no unnecessary shopping, and no new debt for 18 months. How would you check on that? Jake asked. Monthly meetings with Janet. You show bank statements, credit reports, and pay stubs. If you break any rule, the full amount is due immediately. Sarah was shaking her head. That's like being in money jail. No, Sarah. That's called being responsible for your choices. They asked for time to talk privately. While they whispered in the hallway, Janet turned to me. This is either very kind or very harsh. I can't decide which. Maybe it's both. When they came back, Jake spoke for them. We accept your terms. All of them. All of them. Yes. All of them, Sarah confirmed, though she looked like she was swallowing medicine. Janet started writing up the agreement. I'll need this notarized and filed with the county office. As we signed the paperwork, I watched my son and daughter-in-law sign away their financial freedom for the next year and a half. Part of me felt victorious. Part of me felt sad it had come to this. But mostly I felt like I was finally teaching them a lesson their parents should have taught them long ago. Actions have consequences, and family isn't a free pass to treat people badly. 8 months later, I was sitting in my new condo, a beautiful 2-bedroom. I set down my teacup, surprised by how much her words meant to me. What changed your mind? Having to work for money instead of just asking for it. Realizing how hard it is to save even $50 when you're paying your own bills. Understanding what you gave up to help us. And Jake. He's getting better. He still thinks you were too tough, but he admits we needed to change. Through my window, I could see other residents working in the community garden. I'd signed up to help plant tomatoes next week. How are things between you two? Better, actually. We talk more now that we're not constantly worried about money. We cook together. We take walks instead of going shopping. It's nice. I'm glad. Helen, would you like to come for dinner sometime? Nothing fancy. Just homemade tacos and maybe some talking that isn't about money. Thought about it. The old Helen would have said yes immediately, desperate to fix the relationship. The new Helen had learned to protect herself. I'd like that, but let's start with lunch at a restaurant. Small steps. Of course. Whatever makes you comfortable. After we hung up, I sat quietly for a while, thinking about how different this conversation felt from all the others. Sarah had sounded like an adult taking responsibility, not a child making excuses. Maybe the lesson had finally worked. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria Rodriguez. Heard about Sarah's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her. I texted back. Thank you for not bailing her out. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes love means saying no. And sometimes the best gift you can give someone is the chance to discover who they really are when no one's there to catch them. I'd spent 2 years being their safety net, and in doing so, I'd robbed them of the chance to develop their own strength. When I finally pulled that net away, they learned to fly. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And maybe that was the most important lesson of all. Outside my window, the sun was setting over the walking path where I joined a senior hiking group. Tomorrow I was having coffee with a man named Robert who'd asked me out after we both laughed at the same joke during last week's book club meeting. At 71, I was finally learning what it felt like to be valued for who I was, not what I could provide. And that was worth more than all the money I'd ever given away. 6 months after that, Jake and Sarah invited me for Thanksgiving dinner at their house. The first holiday invitation that wasn't about needing my help with cooking or paying for groceries. Sarah had made the entire meal herself, and Jake had cleaned the house without being asked. We sat around the table they'd bought with Sarah's promotion bonus, eating food they'd paid for with their own money. "Mom," Jake said as we were clearing dishes, "I want to say something." I braced myself, not sure what was coming. "I'm sorry it took us so long to appreciate you. And I'm sorry it took almost losing you for us to grow up." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "Helen, you saved our marriage by forcing us to learn how to be partners instead of just roommates who shared bills. You saved our future by making us face reality," Jake added. "We were headed for bankruptcy and didn't even know it." I looked around the house that was truly theirs now, modest but comfortable, filled with things they'd worked for and earned. "I'm proud of both of you," I said, and meant it. "It takes courage to change your whole life." "We had a good teacher," Sarah said with a smile. Even if her teaching methods were a little extreme. We all laughed, and for the first time in years, it felt like a real family gathering. Not because I was funding it, but because we all wanted to be there. Later that evening, as I was getting ready to leave, Sarah pulled me aside. Helen, there's something else I want to tell you. What's that, honey? We're pregnant. My heart leaped. Oh, Sarah. That's wonderful news. We wanted to tell you first because... She paused, looking emotional. Because we want this baby to know their grandmother as the strong, wise woman she is, not just as someone who gives money. We want to raise our child the way you raised Jake, with love, but also with boundaries and consequences, Jake added, joining us. We want them to understand that family means supporting each other, not using each other. I hugged them both, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Genuine hope for our family's future. 9 months later, I was holding my granddaughter Emma in the nursery that Jake and Sarah had painted themselves with money they'd saved from their combined salaries. She was perfect. 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, and the most beautiful smile I'd ever seen. She looks like you, Mom, Jake said softly, sitting beside me. Lucky girl, Sarah added with a grin. She'll have your strength. As I rocked Emma to sleep, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain, the tears, the hard lessons learned by all of us. 2 years ago, if someone had told me that the worst day of my life would lead to the best relationships of my life, I wouldn't have believed them. But here I was, surrounded by a family that had learned to value me for who I was, not what I could give them. Jake and Sarah had learned to stand on their own feet. I had learned to set boundaries and demand respect. And baby Emma would grow up in a home where love came with responsibility, where family meant partnership, not exploitation. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the gift of consequences. Sometimes saying no is the most loving thing you can do. And sometimes disappearing from someone's life is the only way to make them realize how much you actually meant to them. As I sat there holding my granddaughter, I realized that Sarah had been right about one thing. Disappearing from their family had been the greatest gift. Not because they were better off without me, but because my absence had taught them to become people worthy of my presence. The old Helen would have stayed, would have continued enabling their bad behavior out of fear of losing them. The new Helen had learned that real love sometimes requires letting people fall so they can learn to pick themselves up. Emma stirred in my arms, opening her eyes and looking right at me. In that moment I made her a promise. I'll always love you, little one. But I'll also teach you to be strong, to be grateful, and to understand that the best things in life are earned, not given. Jake smiled. That sounds like the grandmother I want her to have. That sounds like the mother I should have been from the beginning, I replied. You were always a good mother, Mom, Jake said. You just learned to be a stronger one. As the sun set outside the nursery window, I reflected on how much had changed. My little hotel room had become a beautiful... Helen, would you like to stay for dinner? I'm making your favorite pot roast. I'd love to, I said, still holding Emma close. But only if you let me help with the dishes afterward. Deal, she laughed. But you're not paying for the groceries. Wouldn't dream of it, I said, and we both knew I meant it. This was their home, their family, their responsibility. And their joy to share with me because they wanted to, not because they had to. That evening, as we sat around the dinner table with baby Emma sleeping peacefully nearby, Jake raised his glass of water. I want to make a toast, he said. To Mom, who loved us enough to let us fail so we could learn to succeed. To Helen, Sarah added, who taught us that the most expensive gifts aren't always bought with money. To family, I said. Real family, built on respect, love, and mutual support. We clinked glasses, and I looked around the table at these people who had once taken me for granted and now cherished me. The road to get here had been painful, but it had led us to something beautiful. A relationship based on choice, not obligation. As I drove home that night, I passed by Riverside Gardens, where Sarah and Jake's original wedding reception was supposed to have been held. For a moment, I imagined that other timeline. The one where I'd stayed quiet, kept paying their bills, and accepted being treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. In that timeline, I'd probably still be sleeping in their spare room, watching them make the same mistakes over and over, enabling their irresponsibility while slowly losing myself. Instead, I was driving to my own beautiful home, where I was valued and respected. Tomorrow I had lunch plans with my hiking group, dinner plans with Robert, and weekend plans to babysit Emma while Jake and Sarah went on their first date night in months, a date they were paying for themselves. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Thank you for dinner tonight. Thank you for everything. I love you." I smiled and texted back. "I love you too. Sweet dreams." But this time those words meant something different than they used to. This time they came from a place of mutual respect and genuine affection, not obligation and guilt. This time they were a gift freely given and gratefully received. As I pulled into my driveway, I thought about the question that had started this whole journey. What would happen if I disappeared from their family? The answer, it turned out, was beautiful. By disappearing, I'd forced them to see what they were losing. By setting boundaries, I'd taught them to respect what I was giving. By saying no, I'd made my yes mean something again. The greatest gift I'd given them wasn't my money. It was the opportunity to become people worthy of my love. And the greatest gift they'd given me was proving that they could rise to the challenge. Sometimes love means holding on tight. Sometimes it means letting go. And sometimes it means disappearing completely so that when you come back, you're not just tolerated, you're treasured. As I unlocked my front door, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. The deep satisfaction that comes from being valued for exactly who you are. Not for what you can provide, not for what you can fix, but for the person you've fought to become. Inside my condo, I made myself a cup of tea and sat down with a photo album Sarah had given me for my last birthday, filled with pictures of our family's new chapter. There was Emma's first smile, Jake's graduation from a financial responsibility class, Sarah's first day at her new job, and dozens of photos from family dinners and holidays where everyone was genuinely happy to be together. The old photos from before, the ones where I was always in the background, always serving, always giving, looked different now. I could see the sadness in my own eyes, the way I'd made myself small to keep everyone else comfortable. The new photos told a different story. In these pictures I was front and center, laughing and relaxed, surrounded by people who were happy to have me there. It had taken losing everything to gain what really mattered. It had taken disappearing to finally be seen. As I got ready for bed, I thought about all the other grandmothers, mothers, and family members who might be watching this video, recognizing their own stories in mine. To them I wanted to say this. You deserve better. You deserve to be valued, appreciated, and respected. You deserve relationships built on love, not financial dependency. And sometimes, the only way to get what you deserve is to stop accepting what you don't. It's scary to set boundaries. It's terrifying to say no to people you love. It's heartbreaking to watch them struggle with consequences you could easily fix. But if you don't teach them to value you, who will? If you don't demand respect, why would they give it? If you don't love yourself enough to protect yourself, how can they learn to love you properly? The journey from doormat to dignified family member isn't easy. It requires courage, patience, and the willingness to risk losing relationships that might not be worth keeping anyway. But on the other side of that risk is the possibility of something beautiful. Relationships built on mutual respect, love that doesn't cost you your self-worth, and family bonds that strengthen both parties instead of draining one. 2 years ago, Sarah told me the greatest gift would be if I disappeared from their family. She was right, though not in the way she meant. My disappearance was a gift. To them because it forced them to grow up, and to me because it taught me my own worth. Sometimes the best thing you can do for people you love is stop rescuing them from their own choices. Sometimes the kindest act is the one that feels the cruelest in the moment. And sometimes, the only way to save a relationship is to be willing to lose it. Today, I'm not the woman who packed her bags in a spare bedroom, heartbroken and defeated. I'm not the woman who wrote check after check hoping to buy love and acceptance. I'm a woman who knows her worth, demands respect, and gives love freely but not foolishly. I'm a grandmother who will spoil Emma with attention and affection, but also teach her responsibility and gratitude. I'm a mother who loves her son enough to let him stand on his own feet. And I'm a person who learned that sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone is yourself. Not your money, not your services, but your authentic boundaries, having self-respecting self. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find the courage to value themselves the way they deserve to be valued. Don't forget to subscribe to Granny's Voice for more stories of family, love, and learning to stand up for yourself. And remember, you are worth more than what you can give others. You are worthy of love that doesn't cost you your dignity. Until next time, this is your friend Helen, reminding you that sometimes the best